It is a brand new edition of Flyers Daily for November 10th, 2025. Flyers Daily presented by Ticketmaster. Make more memories live as we sit here right now at taping. The Maple Leaf game's not done, but right now the Flyers in a wild card position to discuss the week that was, the week that will be, and some ancillary topics, mind you. We bring in from PhiladelphiaFlyers.com, NHL.com, and HockeyHotStove.com, Bill Meltzer. Bill, quite a week for the Flyers. They get their first two road wins.
Yep.
Look at that Montreal game as being a really important one after a bit of a lackluster weekend prior against the Leafs in Calgary. And then the win on Thursday in Nashville against a desperate team. It weathered the storm, if you will, in that first period. And then an overtime loss on Saturday. All in all, 5 out of 6 points is kind of just what the doctor ordered to stay right in the mix.
Yeah, you'll take that over and over and over again all throughout the year, right? Now for sure, Talk challenged the entire team last Sunday. They responded with no doubt their best first period, maybe their best period of the season in that first period on Monday in Montreal. Certainly neither the Thursday game nor Saturday's game were the first period the Flyers wanted, particularly the first 10 minutes in Nashville, and they pretty much the entire first period on Saturday. But they eventually got to their game, which was something that a year ago was not happening very much, not nearly often enough anyway. And the level of resilience and Noah Cates described it to belief throughout the room, which
I might have mentioned that a few times,
which a number of guys have echoed.
Yeah,
right. The Flyers already, and it leads the NHL, which is mostly a positive thing, but they lead the NHL already 3 times. They've trailed going into a third period and they've won, and 2 other times they've trailed in the third period, including Saturday, and come back and got a regulation tie. They ended up losing those 2 in Carolina, and then last game is out in overtime.
Yeah.
So that's already 8 points when trailing after 2 periods. If you look at the numbers across the NHL, the odds of coming back in third periods are not very strong at all. Usually it's pretty automatic. Even the worst teams in the NHL, even the bottom lottery teams, still win 75% of the time when they're leading after 2 periods. So to show that resiliency, to be able to come back, that's a fantastic thing that they are able to do that. They've shown they can. Last year, there were only I think a combined 7 games where they were able to come back and get points after trailing after 2 periods. They're already most of the way to that total. They have the rest of the year to do it 2 more times. So that's fantastic. On the flip side, though, Jason, and any number of players in the room agreed with that, it's not something you want to make a habit of. You don't want to chase games too often. You don't want to have a lot of first periods where you're making up for it over the rest of the 40 minutes. But I'll tell you, they played a heck of a 40 minutes against the Senators on Saturday, and certainly really good second and third periods in Nashville too. So their ability to get to their game, to actually showing a little bit more willingness to shoot, getting traffic to the net, and clamping down defensively, those are all positive things that they'll keep you competitive. And obviously there's the goaltending piece to it as well, particularly Dan Vladar on Thursday. There was no way they were going to come back without the way Vladar played in that game. But these are all things that establish not just belief, but also building blocks for the course of a season. So, yeah, if you take this past week and to come away with 5 of 6 points, big positive as I say it.
Bill, when you look at that ability, I mean, 1 shot in the second, 1 shot in the third. It came with about 2.5 minutes left in the third, and then the 1 shot in overtime.
Yeah.
It's so hard for a goalie to build up save percentage when you're seeing so little.
Yeah.
I mean, it was the shot to end regulation that they got in the final couple minutes was their 12th shot of the game.
Yeah.
I said that they won intermission. I said, when Brian Smith asked me for a little assessment on Sam Harrison, I said he'd prefer a little more work in his way back in to get some more. I said he's going to be riding the bike for an hour after this game because he just hasn't seen any shots.
Yeah, the standards by which they'll call something a shot on goal, and I know Bush gets on the soapbox as a former goalie. It's like, you want a few of those just kind of roll into you and you stop. you know, to count as shots, because you're going to have the unstoppable ones or the ones that get deflected or bounce on you. And you kind of need those to balance your save percentage a little bit sometimes too.
Yeah, you just need some of that that quantity to help you out and make you feel more attached to the game. But what do we attribute this to? Like some of the shot suppression numbers and so far through 15 games at particular times has been pretty remarkable. I mean, really high shot suppression. Is this, you know, this isn't just the box and one. This is players and really not even just D, the whole 5-man unit really working at this. And this, to me, has been the biggest progressive step of this team from last year to this year.
Without a doubt. And you can look at it, you know, if you want to break it down into one thing, there's a lot of ways you can slice and dice why it is. But look at the number of backdoor goals that they allowed last year.
Oof.
And previous year, previous years before that, and even the preseason this year before they kind of, you know, really reeled it in and playing as 5-man units.
They gave up the most last year. I remember Kevin Woodley brought it up.
Yeah,
both backdoor and you know, goals and chances.
Nothing makes it harder on a goalie because you can't stop those.
Yep, you know? And you start cheating too.
You start cheating, and you also have forwards, wingers particularly, cheating out of the zone too early.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, one of the things the Flyers have done, they've done actually a very good job at curbing that. Now, you know, the Flyers are such a good rush team. You don't want to lose too much of that. But on the other hand, in order to defend as a 5-man unit, you need all 5 guys playing their role. So, you know, there's a little give and take with that and finding kind of that sweet middle ground that you have to reach. But everybody's bought into it. I think it was Cam York that said that the other day. It's like, you know, you don't do it if everybody's not buying in, because you know, all it takes is one guy in a 5-man unit not pulling his weight, and then it all falls apart on you. So I honestly think that, you know, it's not just box and one, but it really is just a commitment to helping the goalie out. The goalies are making the saves when they have to, which leads to more confidence in front of them.
Yep.
You know, also knowing when when is a good time to block a shot, when you don't want to block a shot. Todd put it pretty simply, because we'll have an upcoming article on PhiladelphiaFlyers.com where I talked a little bit of talk about, you know, just generally about what you're trying to accomplish out there, you know, systematically with your D zone, with your forecheck, the offensive zone, with your breakouts, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But where he said, you know, when it comes to shot blocking, is if it's a wrist shot and it's something that you know, makes sense to get in front of, where you're not screening your goalie too much, then block it. On the other hand, you know, and you know, sometimes the puck's just going to catch you, but you know, but a big wind-up slap shot or something, don't put yourself in the path. Yeah. And I said, I remember one time, and it was defending a 1-goal lead late. The Flyers are in St. Louis. I'll never forget this. Flyers are in St. Louis and defending a 1-goal lead, and you know, Al McInnes pinched in a little bit from the point.
Ooh, look out!
And Peter Swoboda deliberately put himself in the path, right? And he blocked it, but he was out the next 8 weeks.
Yeah,
you know,
you don't get in front of an Al McInnes clapper, no way.
Even
with the wood stick too.
And I remember Swoboda knew it was going to happen. You know, like he already had the look in his face, but he sacrificed himself anyway. But yeah, that's a good example of a time where you don't want to block a shot.
Yeah, that time it was Al McInnes and Al Iafrate. Get out of the way. Let the guy with the big pillows on handle that stuff. Your equipment is not equipped to protect you against Al Iafrate and McInnes. Unbelievable. Yeah, that you got to have some stones to get in front of one of those.
Heck yeah.
Without goalie equipment, you got to have in goalie equipment, frankly, too. Bill, one of the things. Let's keep it kind of on a system thing and a positive real quick, because the forecheck when Tyson Forster went out, I was worried about it because, you know, we have that line you can bank on of Cates, Forster, and Brink and their connectivity in forechecking. But I thought it was pretty interesting that when you broke up Cates and Brink and put them on other lines, they all of a sudden looked more connected with Brink or with Cates.
Yes.
I don't know if it's a verbal thing or what it is, but those players almost force connectivity in the offensive zone. Like you see that one goal they scored this weekend where TK against Nashville, rather, on Thursday, where TK keeps it in first with the stick and then pinches the wall.
Yes.
And then Drysdale jumps the middle, and you see the Nashville players. I mean, you can almost see a thought bubble above their heads that says OS. They didn't get it out. And we're caught. They're like trying to make a U-turn, but now Drysdale's driving the middle, gets the shot off, and they get the rebound goal. But it seems like when they're connected like that, the forecheck is creating way more second chance opportunities and more scoring opportunities.
Yeah. Without a doubt. And I think a piece of it, again, not the whole thing, but if you slice and dice a little bit, I think part of that is the growth that Noah Cates has shown as a leader, because you see him sometimes he'll direct traffic a little bit.
Yeah.
Which is less necessary, when his normal line is out there, because each guy, they already know where everyone's going to be. But I saw a little bit of that with Forster out. Just making sure everybody's on the same page. And one thing that line does really well, and in watching other games, not even Flyers games, where you have lines with skill, maybe even more natural skill than that line has, but they're not connected. They're 25, 30 feet apart. And so if the one guy, one thing that line does so well, Cates' line, and the other guys, you said, have stepped in nicely on it, is if one guy loses the initial puck battle,
second wave,
he's not losing it cleanly with the tie, and then the second guy comes in, and they are just, they're able to do, and the way they cycle the puck too. That's something that they're really good at. And just little things, right? Being able to not just create a turnover, but also knowing, getting a guy to the right to the net where you might not score, you might not even get a scramble out of it, but you'll get an offensive zone face-off a lot of times. So that line does that just pretty automatically. And so when Forster comes back, and thankfully he was skating on his own the other day, not in pads, but on his own, he looked really good. So so it looks like he's not going to miss very much time at all, thank goodness.
When's he eligible to return, Bill? Tuesday.
Yeah, Tuesday. I don't know if he'll be ready for Tuesday.
Wednesday. But
but I don't know if he'll be held out an extra game beyond that. But he's not going to be very long. That's whenever a guy blocks a shot like that, you always hold your breath. Is it fractured? Is he going to be out, any extended period of time, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So that's definitely a hopeful sign. But that's something that I think every line on the Flyers can emulate, and specifically in terms of getting to the net. And Kevin Kurtz actually pointed it out in the press box on Saturday, so I want to give Kevin a shout out for it too. They happened early in the second period, and it was actually Nikita Grabenkin and also to an extent Garden Hathaway. They created a scramble on the play, and you had Grabenkin at the net, kind of whacking away at the puck, and they didn't score, but that was really the first time all game the Flyers had done that. And it became a momentum builder for the team, because one shift can feed into the other one that way. On that particular shift, it was the Flyers' fourth line. So, but the point being that every line can do those little things, and they add up.
I thought the turning point in the Nashville game was in the first period, about midway through the period. Couturier on the forecheck down below the goal line. It's just battling down there for a good 40 seconds, and then eventually they get a scoring.
And the Cates line after that,
the Cates line, and they had the Konecny chance where Cates delivered it below the goal line to Konecny, doing the same exact forecheck. I thought it became contagious.
Sure.
It's really interesting how that happens. And does it feel to you like the momentum swings are more pronounced than they were, a decade or 2 decades ago? It's like a TV timeout. The other team comes out and has momentum for a bit. It's pretty wild how pronounced it is in today's game. Maybe more so than it was. It feels a little more even before.
It did. There were a lot more evenly played periods, and again, from watching other games, it hasn't just been Flyers games.
No, you see it all over the league.
Yeah, yeah, it really does. Oftentimes feel like TV timeout to TV timeout. It is odd.
Let me ask you about. Let's talk about Michkov.
Yeah.
Because he said after the game this weekend, or maybe it was even a practice on Sunday, I'm not sure, about that he was off for 4 months and the training was different. I don't know how much gets lost in translation too. I don't know if we have to take if everything is literal and supposed to be or not. But the fact of the matter is he has said that he hasn't felt right, basically. I'm paraphrasing. And I think it's a fair assessment. And that when he's not scoring, I think he used the term, I feel heavy. Like in the sense where like your legs aren't there. You don't have that jump. And this is something that I thought I was expecting for a guy coming into the best league in the world, that all of a sudden there are going to be times when this league will hold you down, and it's how you react to it. And because at every other level, you're not used to being held down. You're used to kind of asserting your will at all times, and how you handle it and all that is part of that learning equation that, great players have to go through, because you can be humbled in the NHL no matter who you are. Like Connor Bedard went through it, right?
Yeah.
We see him blossoming now. And
go back to John Tavares' rookie year. I remember, because I remember he broke the slump against the Flyers.
Yep.
But he went like 21 games without a goal, and he was the first pick of the draft. All the superstar expectations, but everyone was weighing on him. Just shift after shift, right? Things that came instinctually to him just were not coming to him because, he was just really
used to being covered like that, not having time.
I think that the pace of the game, the strength of the defenders, those are all big adjustments that players have to make, and particularly in a player's second year, because you go out and maybe you've had a lot of success in your rookie year, and then
that pitcher in baseball, isn't it? The first year through the league, and then they got the book on you.
Then they book on you, and yes, you develop a book too, and it'll eventually, if you stick with it, you'll ultimately, most of these guys who can really play whatever the sport is, they're ultimately fine. Specific to Michkov, in the first game against Nashville, it looked like, and he had 2 really nice assists in that game too. It looked like he was, and we had talked about it too. He was about to break out, right?
Time to pop. Yep.
And then that weekend, nothing went right for the Flyers, really, including Michkov.
Yeah.
So everybody took a step back in those next 2 games against Toronto and Calgary, and then so he had to kind of step back a little bit and then rebuild to kind of where he was from that first Nashville game, and then in the last 2 games, getting his second goal of the year obviously was a huge weight off his shoulders, and he said as much.
And you saw it in the celebration. That wasn't a jubilant celebration. That was a pissed off celebration.
That was like about damn time kind of. And then just made just a spectacular play.
It was ridiculous.
Yeah,
I was in the corner, like you see me in the little highlight where he's in the corner. I'm in there watching it, and I watch him chug off Jake Sanderson. Not easy, right? He backs into him to bump him off a little bit, a la Forsberg-ish, in a way, while moving. And then he does something very key. I talk about the decision zone all the time at the top of the circle. Does the D go out on you out that high, or does the winger crash down? He splits it, right? Yeah. And then he just goes hard to the middle, and he's got traffic driving, and he ends up getting the goal. I thought that was a created Michkov like magic goal to me. Yeah. Yeah, I know a couple guys got an assist, and Dvorak's down there around the net. And he gets an assist but to me, that was the one I go, wow, that looks like the Michkov that can dominate.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And notice that overtime rolls around, and he's out in overtime, right?
Yeah, legs are coming
because he earned that. He earned that time. Yep. He earned that time, and he will be fine. I'm a little bit weary of talking about Michkov just because I think it's been discussed to death, honestly.
Agreed.
There's
this like singular focus on him, Bill, that I'm there's a faction of Flyers fans that I think have fallen away from fandom of the team, and they've fallen into fandom of Michkov. And he's not getting enough minutes or this or that. Like, I will tell people, when you don't skate over something, like, you can do all the training in the world, not being on the ice. You can't train to be on the ice.
Yeah.
Like, no matter how much you run on a treadmill or run up a mountain, I don't give a damn. Hockey training is different. Like, it feels different when you put on your equipment and stuff. Like I remember, like, even as a kid, like, and I didn't play at any super high level, like, getting in shape all summer. And then the first 2 weeks of practicing, my right forearm would kill me just from holding the goalie stick, because your muscles weren't used to it.
Yeah.
You're using muscles in such a different way because you're in a flow sport on ice that you can't train for it off the ice specifically. And he didn't skate as much this summer, and you could see it in his legs, and he admitted to it.
And he's taking extra skate. Now, the Flyers have been a little bit fortunate. The Flyers haven't had a schedule like some other teams, because everybody has the compacted schedule. But until the Flyers just had that 4 and 6, they really had a lot of off days. Now they have several off days again before their next game. So these are actually some opportunities for Michkov to put in skating time and whatever, which I think helped him immensely. And so honestly, I would not be surprised at all if he's rolling now, and can really pretty much stop discussing, the off-season thing and whatever. Because
the thing is, this is like, people go, in a season you can't get in shape because you kind of regress physically, but you can if you have off days and you skate properly to failure. I always say you got to skate to failure, where you can't go anymore, and you got to repeat it. It shifts, and that's how you can get yourself into hockey shape by going to failure.
And when you're starting out behind the 8 ball,
it's tough.
And again, he did have the injury, playing in one of those Russian, not benefit games, but they're really just friendlies or whatever you want to call them.
Yeah.
And
like
so
the Beauty League.
So it's the Russia versus the Beauty League, exactly. And so he started out definitely behind schedule, in conditioning wise, maybe a couple pounds over where he needed to be, at the start of camp. So those things take time. Now they've had a lot of off days. You watch him out there. He came, he'd be on the ice early for skating, and it's not a work ethic thing at all.
No.
It was really, he probably could have handled his off season better, just that part of it, and then there's the injury piece of it. So he started out slowly, but I think these last couple games, whether he scores or not on Wednesday, I mean, it'd be great if he makes it 3 in a row with a goal.
Yeah.
But I think but I think he's there. I think he's where he should be now. And
you can tell by looking at it. I don't need any advanced metric here.
Yeah. no, just the whole body language too.
Yep.
Where
the willingness to do certain things. He plowed a guy in the corner in the other game too. I go, okay, dude's feeling better. Like, he got up on his skates and just wrecked the dude in the corner. And it was a pretty big guy.
Even and he's never going to be any Selke winner, right? But he's even coming back on place.
Yeah, his back pressure.
Yeah, he's doing that.
Yeah.
So I think it's starting to click for him now. And yes, he still has some ground to make up on the stat sheet. But as long as he keeps doing those things, he'll make that up. It's still early in the year. If a player does that same thing in maybe late December to mid-January, it doesn't stand out as much, because I think the beginning of a season tends to create an impression for months to come, whether good or bad. Yeah, you've seen guys get out the quick starts, and they're not doing anything for the next 6 weeks, but you're still hearing on broadcasts about what a great season he's having.
And what a great start.
Yeah,
well, it's been 3 months since he scored.
Yeah.
Now let's go to Owen Tippett, because Billy did get off to a great start, but he is now. I don't think he played bad this week. No. I think he had a lot of opportunities, but he hasn't found the back of the net in a while, and he's got the one assist in there in that time. He's been better overall, but I still wonder about creating offense as a unit as opposed to creating offense as an individual. I don't know who he should be playing with. I'm still not sure who Michkov should be playing with, and I'm certainly not sure who Tippett should be playing with.
I mean, Tippett, generally speaking, and I've said before too, I don't think he's an easy line mate to play with, not because he's selfish at all, but just because so much of his game is geared towards get him the puck and he'll skate with it.
Hair on fire.
Yeah, and
that's not a redhead joke.
That's really when he's at his most effective. But when he scored his first goal this year, which was just a little tap in from the post, but he was there, right? He was there at the net, and that so in and of itself, just being in the right place, and things follow from there. If he gets back to doing those, you'll start seeing more of the rushes from the neutral zone, carrying the puck to the net, and the occasional 3-quarter ice goal too, where he'll just solo.
Yeah.
And while he's not a playmaking winger, he should have more than one assist right now too. It will. So, I did think, particularly in the Montreal game, I thought he took a huge step forward in the Montreal game. Maybe a little bit of a mixed bag in Nashville and to some degree too against Ottawa, but you can see the progression too. Like he's not far away either. And we've seen it with Konecny, where now he's a 7-game point streak.
Yeah, don't look now. Here comes TK with a kind of underrated 2-point game again. Like he's been really good lately in creating, like that play I talked about earlier where he keeps it in not once but twice against Nashville. Like that's a great play. Knock it down with your stick, don't get control, and then read it to pinch the wall the way he did. Like I love the way he sealed the wall, and that creates the chance for Drysdale and then eventually the rebound goal. One of the things that I know is being talked about on social media right now is the facial reaction of Sean Couturier to Michkov. And I think it's funny because, look, sometimes things aren't always – I don't know if Couturier was truly angry at him or whatever. I think sometimes you can take a small clip and look at it, and it's like you can be goofing, and just that one clip gets played. I'm not sure. But what I will tell you is this, is that I believe, and I've always, being on teams and being around this team for 15, 16 years, that, look, there are times when behind the scenes, it's not pretty. People have been pining for leadership, but when someone's displayed and some accountability, like player to play, there's no more impactful accountability than peer-to-peer, player to player, because
100%.
That's what the approval players seek the most. It's not the coach, even though he controls playing time. It's the guy next to him in the locker room.
Yeah, 100%. And we could both give any number of examples, whether it's on the bench, in the room.
Watch the bench sometime if you're at a game.
You
talked about Cates earlier, talking about communicate. Watch him on the bench. Yeah. He is constantly talking to his line mates.
Yeah, and sometimes it's a little bit more insistent, or if you have him mix up in communication, that happened before.
Yep.
Right. Then it's there's a little frustration,
and
What's
then it's over,
and it's over, and then it's forgotten about. I do think there's a danger in taking like a small thing that happens, and I'll give you a dramatic example, far more than the look, when Mark Howe was playing with in the mid '80s, Peter Zezel, and Zezel had a habit, and Mark would tell him, keep your stick on the ice for the breakout pass, but he still had his stick up in the air, and couple passes missed him. And then finally on the bench, he said to him, like, keep your stick on the ice.
Yeah.
And to prove his point, the next time they were out there, Mark actually shot the puck at him so hard he actually broke the stick blade. And so the stick blade went flying into the corner, and he said, he's like, Pete looked at me, but you know what? After that, his stick was always on the ice.
Yeah.
So
I'm aiming for your stick blade. If you have it up, I'm going to drill you in the, what?
Exactly. So that kind of stuff happens all the time. Or guys say things to each other all the time.
You think Matthew Tkachuk does that? I think he does.
Quite 100%. And
dude, what are you doing? We need you. That happens all the time.
On the Flyers team, the 2010s, where I deign to say Wayne Simmons might have been the most popular player on the team among fans and also among his teammates, because they knew no one would have their back more than him.
Yep.
But he was the bad cop when he had to be.
Yeah.
But you need that. You need that accountability to one another. That's part of a healthy relationship.
Yep.
and so, things happen in the course of the game. As soon as the game is over, it's forgotten about. But
because you're all pulling on the rope in the same direction. You want
exactly
the same thing.
That's the whole purpose, right? And that's what your leaders are there to do. They're to make sure that
Was Chris Pronger ever worried about somebody taking a look or something the wrong way? He was there to do one thing.
Yes.
Drink beer and kick ass. It looks like we're almost out of beer. No,
beer. Yes.
Chris Pronger was there to win.
I remember one time too. Chris was the whole controversy over because some media people overheard Prongs kind of getting on Claude Giroux.
Yeah,
because it was audible in the hallway.
Yep.
And then we asked Prongs about it after. He said, yeah, I have to go on IR with hurt feelings.
Yeah.
And so that whatever he made light of the whole thing and whatever. And G said it's a whole lot of nothing.
Yep.
And it was a whole lot of nothing. So in most of the I mean, not saying there are never teammates who don't get along or there have been fractured locker rooms, but that's not the case here. It's more of a healthy dynamic, and it's really a lot of discussion about nothing in particular.
I always tell people, look at your own where you work.
Yeah.
You got people you really like there. You got some people like you're like, he doesn't pull his weight. He does this too much. This is like any other workplace in a lot of ways. Yeah. There's dynamics and there's nuance and there's all that stuff. And sometimes, some people have to be motivated differently. And I think, like they call him Mike, they call Michkov Mike. He's a likable guy. And he can do special things, and they recognize that he can do things that other guys can't do. So, but it's also, hey, dude, we need you do this or do that, and sometimes you can get frustrated with a guy. And absolutely. I told you to go here, you went there, and you kind of left me out to dry. And so that stuff happens. So I don't think there's anything wrong with it at all.
I agree.
Matter of fact, when I played or when I coach teams, and I've talked to coaches that believe this before, sometimes you love to see that friction because it keeps everybody. You start getting too comfortable. It's like a country club. You got a problem.
Yeah.
And I go back to that one year that, what's his name, Keith Yandel was here. That team stunk out loud, that Flyers team.
That was an example of there wasn't accountability.
There was none.
Right?
Nobody. You turn the puck over with a nice pizza up the middle. It's, you doing? Where are we going to dinner?
Well, exactly. And I get that, and anybody that's dealt with Keith Yandel will tell you, super good guy.
Great guy.
Really nice guy.
Said he had the most fun that year of any of his playing career. I bet.
But by the same token, and not just because of plus minus either, but he
stunk.
He stunk, for lack of a better word. Yeah. Like he had, I think, a good first week of the season, if I recall, and then the rest of the year was really, really, really a struggle.
Yeah, he was
and it came down ultimately to Mike Yeo making the decision. He has to be taken out of the lineup, which ended his streak, which was an unfortunate way, but it was just,
that was how it was going to end no matter when.
Yeah.
He earned it at that point. Yeah. And I loved to cover him, and he was a great guy and everything. But like when I heard him say on Spit and Chicklets that was the most fun I had in my NHL career, and I went back and looked at the numbers, I said, that should not have been fun at all.
No, that year was not fun.
Yeah, that was the problem.
Yeah.
That was fun.
Yeah.
Getting your teeth kicked in, game in and game out.
Well, yeah.
And irritated me. As you can see, I'm still irritated.
I go back to 06, 07, which was the worst year in Flyers history. And, of course, Simone Gagne, you won't find a more laid back guy than Simone. A more, a friendlier guy, a more, whatever adjective you want to use. But it was not generally like Simone to be the guy to get a conflict with a teammate or whatever, to be the confrontational one. But he said that he walked in to the locker room one day, and rather than everybody having their game face on, because the Flyers were dead last in the league and whatever, guys were laughing or joking around, and Simone, of all people, actually raised his voice. He said, like have some bleeping pride, right? We're in last place. What is it with you? And that needed to be said. Probably should have been said sooner. But but to actually have that, accountability to your team, right? Because or going back to Howie, right? He always associates having a good time with winning.
Yeah.
And if
And
you're not
sometimes
winning,
some of those guys joking around like we're good competitors, but sometimes you just lose your way.
yeah,
And you need to be somebody needs to rein you in and remind you.
right,
And that's what a guy like Simone would do. And when Simone said it, you're probably like, ooh, wasn't expecting that from him.
yeah.
So it snaps guys too, kind of quicker too. Yeah, very interesting. So interesting times. This week, we'll see the Edmonton Oilers. How about Connor McDavid, Leon Draisaitl, and the Oilers coming in Wednesday for the Flyers. I have a couple days off. I believe today, Monday, is an
Mine
off
Tuesday,
day.
yeah. Well, there's a practice day on Tuesday, but yeah.
Okay. And then practice day Tuesday, game day on Wednesday. Then the Flyers, the schedule's all a little all over the place this year.
Crazy,
We didn't
yeah.
get to Zegras, by the way. And then they go to St. Louis on Friday for an 8 o'clock game. Saturday, head down to Dallas for another 8 o'clock game before coming back all the way to Thursday with 4 days off in between for Hockey Fights Cancer Night against Braden Shen and the Blues. And the Blues are open for business, which is a little early. Last thing, Bill, because I do want to get to Zegras because he's been really good for the Flyers. They've hit the kind of they've gotten everything they wanted out of this deal so far. When do you start talking extension? Danny Briere is going to be our guest tomorrow on the episode, and we'll talk about this. But when do you start thinking extension? Is the price just going up? Do you wait for him to cool off? I mean, what do you do here?
I think it's more of a mid-season thing or into the Olympic break. Now he's starting to earn some consideration, I would hope, if he keeps this up for the Olympic team. But whether he is or isn't, that's actually a good time to talk about. You can weigh his season so far and whatever. It's not like he's unrestricted this year.
Yep, still restricted. Yep.
If he was UFA this summer, he certainly
had a contract last week if he was going to be a UFA.
Yeah. Oh, I absolutely would have. Absolutely would have. But he seems happy here, not just in the room with how he's playing. He says all the time about how thrilled he is to be here. He says it all the time, and so I think something will get worked out. Just keep it up, and it'll take care of itself.
He could be the comeback player of the league this year.
He's certainly building a case, isn't he? So
he's leading. Of all players playing on a new team this year,
yeah,
he has the most points out of any of them.
Yeah.
So yeah, he's done the job, and I don't sense any disingenuousness from him. Like he seems like he's totally into being here. I tell you what, who talks a lot too is Noah Juleson.
Yes.
Like he is until I stick a microphone, but like I had him at intermission, like he is. And I had him on one of the post games where he came in after he got his equipment off, and we talked to him. We had great conversation. In between periods, when you pull him off the ice, he didn't have much to say. Yeah. He's really locked into the game. Like you can see the intensity. Yeah. So good on him. I thought he played really well on Saturday.
Best game of the Flyers so far. Yeah.
Yeah. Physical. Yeah. Really got after it. I thought he had a good one. We'll see what happens when Risto comes back, but not sure when that even is at this point. All right. Read Bill's work, PhiladelphiaFlyers.com, NHL.com, and HockeyHotStove.com. And join us tomorrow. Danny Briere, Flyers GM, will be our guest on a brand new episode of Flyers Daily.